So, welcome back to another Wardle Road video. Now, I've been bugged to make this video for quite some time now, so I finally got around to actually deciding to do it. So I'm back here in East Dereham at County School Station. Now, I will put a sort of a link somewhere, up here somewhere, there'll be a link if you're on PC to my actual video on County School, which will give you a bit of the history and some more information about this place. But after going to the Great Electric Train Show in Milton Keynes, I saw a layout there called Little Burford, which I've taken some photos of. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'd have seen them. And I was really quite inspired actually to make a exhibition layout or something I could take to shows that wasn't obviously the layout that's stuck in the railway room. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. If it's something you want to see more of, please do let me know, and hopefully in the next couple of years, my county school exhibition layout will be on the exhibition circuits and you see it at a show one day. But yeah, other than that, please do hit the thumbs up and don't forget to comment. And of course, if this is your first time here, please do subscribe. There's plenty more videos on the channel for you to go and take a look at if you're bored. But yeah, other than that, let's get into the video and I hope you enjoy. Right, so from those clips you've just seen a little bit of County School in real life, and now we move to the double O gauge version. Now this is my exhibition layout County School Station. It's not complete yet, I'm still waiting on a couple of bits and pieces and there's still some little bits that need doing. But what I'm going to do in this video is basically show you sort of section by section all the stuff that I've done so far and some of the products I've used and maybe some of the techniques and just a little bit of information about how I've got to this stage so far. Then if you guys do like this video, I will do a follow-up once it's completely completed and show you some other bits or answer any questions that you might have. So if you do have any questions about the layout, do leave it in the comment section below, or any ideas of how you could improve this. Again, let me know down below. But what I'm going to do is jump into the first section, which I think will be this area behind me. But before I do that, I just thought I will explain the sort of the dimensions. So these are Tim Horn, I think they're called picture frame boards. These are two 5 foot by 1.5 foot deep boards. I then have a 3 foot fiddle yard on one end and a 3 foot fiddle yard on the other end. Now these still need to be completed, but the idea is that one fiddle yard is going to have all the electronics. So I've got the DR5000 on there and a couple of other bits from DCC Concepts on there as well, which I will show you later on. But yeah, the main scenic section is 10 foot long and it all bolts together, and it's got aligning bolts in the middle here as well, so it all joins together nicely. But yeah, I'll move down to this section and I'll show you from this end to that end. Right, so the area you see in front of you here is the first 1.5 foot of scenic section. Now this is the area where rolling stock and locomotives enter here through the little tunnel port, through a little hole in the baseboard there, and I've just disguised that a little bit with a couple of trees, as I feel, especially from the shot here, you can't actually see it, which is kind of the aim. Obviously on the actual real location there isn't any bridge or tunnel entrance there, so I couldn't just put one there just for the sake of it. Now, moving along, you've got the 15 mph sign, which is the sort of first bit of scenic interest on the track anyway, as well as the cable, the point rodding, sorry. Now, this actually runs further back because just behind this area here, there is actually a signal, but it doesn't fit in the track plan here, so that's why you don't see it here, but you do see the point rodding. Just behind there, we've got a field, and now this field is made up of a mixture of seafoam trees, some woodland scenics, fine foliage or tree foliage, and then we've got a mixture of green scenes and some woodland scenics flowers there. Yeah, this is 4mm green scene, I think. And then these troughs over here were printed by Timbersurf, and I will leave a link to the website he sells his various bits on in the description below. And then these cows, I think, were scale 3D as well. Over to the left hand side here, you can see a little wooden cart. Now this is from Scale Model Scenery. I didn't see one of these in this particular at county school when I went to go and have a look around, but at the time these things were very commonly pulled behind horses prior to obviously motor vehicles and things. So I've just kind of put one there just to sort of depict the idea that they were using it at one point and they've just left it to rot away in a field. So as we move to the forefront of the scene here, you'll see a small little river running across here. Now this actually runs underneath the road and then away from the scenic area that I'm covering. So this is the only bit of the river you'll actually see, and I've kind of just tried to make it a sort of a murky mess. You've got bits of trees and other bits of foliage, a couple of logs and things in there just to sort of mix it up. But I think on camera, the way the sort of light shines off it as well, I think that's come out quite well. Now behind here there is a footpath, and I've just made that sort of a gravelly base, nothing too sort of, it's a sort of footpath that people have been walking up and down, but it wasn't perhaps designated as a footpath, but that's just how it's come to be. And you've also got some old sleepers here as well from Intentio, I think that's the name of the company. And what my plan is, actually, just looking at these, I'd like to add some more perhaps along the back here as well, just to look like there has been a little bit more sleeper replacement. Now the fencing, these fences here are all from Scale Model Scenery, and they're just a matter of drilling lots and lots of holes, putting all the posts in, and then feeding through the wires. Now prior to putting these in, I actually painted and weathered all the posts up, and then some of them have got sort of kinks and dents in just to give it that less sort of clean look on the sort of public access side, whereas on the farmer's side his fence is all nice and neat. Right, so from this shot here you might be able to see a small owl just sitting on the fence post there. Now the reason I added that is just because of all the trips I've ever taken up to county school, we always see owls, so I thought it was quite nice to incorporate one of them into the layout. Just to the right of the scene here, you might be able to see the small signal box. Now, county school had two signal boxes, one at this end and one at the other end, which I'll show you later on. Now, I think this was either a small signal box. I know it had a frame in it, but I think they also were maybe in charge of the crossing as well. But we'll have a look at the crossing in a second. Now, the background here looks a little bit bare, and that's because at the moment I'm currently scratch building the station master's house. So if I put that in place there, you can kind of see how the house is going to sort of peer over the trees there, and you'll be able to get a nice view of that as trains pass across the crossing. So moving a little bit further down now, this is the crossing section, and as you can see, the little line-side hut over here has got a small light in it, and there is actually a scene in there, although I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it from this angle, but it has actually got its own lever frame and a chap in there reading the paper as well. Again, it's not the sort of thing you'd notice if you just walk past the layout, but it's the sort of detail that I wanted to add that I knew it was in there, so if I ever get some cool shots of the trains passing across the crossing, you might be able to see that in the corner. Now, coming forward to the road scene here, now this is probably my favourite bit of modelling. I was really pleased with how I ended up creating this sort of tarmac effect road. It looks quite beaten up, and it blends quite nicely into the wooden crossing. Now the gates, as you can see, are currently open for traffic, but the plan is at some point to fit servos onto these gates like so you can open and close them. So you'll see at the back there, I've used some nice tall seafoam trees now in the real location. The seafoam, not seafoam trees, the actual trees run very tall all the way along the white picket fence to the main road. So I've replicated this again here, and it also splits up the scene nicely between the farmer's field and the road as well. So really pleased with how they've come out. So the railings you'll see up here and the railings running along the front here, these are done by Scale Model Scenery. Now originally I don't think they did a three rail version of the concrete post type, but I asked Justin if he could make some of these up, and he did. I'm not sure if they're on the website, but either way they look absolutely fantastic, and obviously I wanted them to match exactly the right height and amount of railings that County School has, and then they're all painted in the Great Eastern Railway green, as well as the gate down there for the station master's house. Again, mimicking the actual location, I've gone for the wooden boards here, which are all quite heavily weathered, and then some wooden, I think they're like sleeper type footpath that ran from this bottom end of the platform all the way to the other side. I've still got a little bit of tidying up to do at the bottom of that signal, but that can all be done in no time at all. So looking to the right of the station master's house, you'll see it was quite common during this period for them to grow their own vegetables and things in the garden. So we've got some tomato plants and some beans, and then at some point, once I've got the actual station building, there's going to be a really big seafoam tree here sort of overhanging the station, and that should fill this area out nicely. Ignore the platform in front. As you can see, the difference between this one and that one, I'm just trying out some different textures. Now a lot of the sort of practice and sort of ideas that I did for the platform for other bits I've done off the layout, but I wasn't quite happy with how I did this side, so I tried it with a slightly different technique that side, but again, I'm still not particularly happy with it. So it's only plastic card in between the two edges, so I can just take that up and replace that with something once I've decided the best way of going around to the platform. So if you've got any techniques for the sort of loose gravelly concrete effect you can see at the front here, or something similar, please do let me know in the comment section below. So as we look at this shot here, as you can see, there's no platform. The platforms are pretty bare at the moment because I haven't quite decided on the final texture for the platform surface, but once that's done I can then go and add, I've got all the extra bits and seats and things to add there, and as well once the station buildings are here, that'll all bring the scene together. But down the front here on the left hand side we have two sand bunkers with some ballast filled buffers stops behind that, and the idea is that a small sort of steam engine like an N7 or something would come here, leave the carriages in the platform and then run around. The other use for this inside line here was, which I'll show you later on, is for unloading and loading coal. Now there was a small sort of coal merchant's hut here with some coal stades along here, but what I've done is incorporated the coal storage area slightly further along the layout, so we still got a reason to bring coal wagons down here, and I'll show you that in a second. So like I said, the station area is very, very bare at the moment. There really isn't anything going on. As I say, I can't do much until the building's here. The only other bits I've done of interest is the textured floor down here, which is from Intentio, and these are actually exactly the right dimension. All of these are little squares, and they're all exactly the right dimension of the actual ones on site, and that was again something I felt important to recreate, as well as the fence running along the back here. Now I think this does need some station signage along here, as there's a car park behind here somewhere, but obviously I can't fit that in with the station building, but there should be some signage saying sort of platform this way, things like that. But yeah, as you can see here, I've marked out roughly where the station building is going to go, and it's quite a long station building as well, so it's going to overlap here somewhere, so I don't want to do any of this scenery until I've got the building exactly up to where it's going to be. Right, so moving along to the second of the 5 foot sections, as you can see pretty much just after where this bench is here, the board splits in half, and this section on the right hand side is it's probably 99% complete. There's just some minor little bits, like I've just sort of test fitting the last bit of these cable runs here, these point roddings here. So I need to take them back out, shorten them a little bit and paint them up and then fit them in place, and then that'll be done. The other interesting things over here, you'll see the County School 3D printed station. Now the signs themselves were 3D printed by Timbersurf, I believe, and then I've just put them on some sort of plastistrut. I think that's about 2mm by 2mm square plastic rodding, and cut it down and then painted the bottom black. Same on the one over there. And there's also a 3D printed lamp. Now this is actually made up of several parts. There is an LED in there, but I haven't actually got around to wiring that up. So these benches over here, these were also printed by Timbersurf of Tim's scale. Again, I think these are available through the Scale 3D website. You won't be able to see them here, but the actual on the left hand side of the sort of seat frame, it actually says Great Eastern Railway, the initials of it, which is a fantastic little bit of detail. Just adds that another element of realism. And then finally down the right hand side here, you can see we've recreated the wooden crossing with some more matchsticks that have all been weathered up. So finally, this end section here, well, the last two bits, I'm going to show you this area here and then we'll do a close-up of the very, very end. But as you can see, this is the most complicated area of track work. Now we've got a big scissor crossing over here, and that's run, I got that from eBay. I think it was about £100 to have that sort of custom made. It's all code 75 this, so I got myself a code 75 crossover, and these are all run on Cobalt IP point motors. And then you have some frog juicers over the middle section that switch the polarity dependent on the setting of the points. On the topic of points, you'll also see an absolute huge selection, huge length of point rodding here, and that runs all the way. There still needs to be a little bridge section over there, but that runs all the way along here, under here to this point here, as well as this point here, and then all the way up to the crossing points as well. These are actually the exact amount of point rods compared to the photos I have from the real location. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I've just tried to give the idea, sort of representation of the amount of point rodding that was actually coming out of this signal box, and hopefully you can see that with the amount of sort of effort I've gone into to try and get that to look right. There is also a sort of concrete path that runs from the end of the platform all the way up to the signal box, and this again I've just done with a little bit of filler and then some of the Woodland Scenic fibre to make the bushes along the back. Now because of a certain feline animal that runs around this house, there is a bit missing there that I need to fill back in, that she decided to remove. At the forefront of the shot, the coal bunker that I mentioned earlier, I've just fitted it in here. This is again a kit from Intentio. Now as I mentioned earlier, it's slightly further along this siding, but just to get the sort of representation that there was coal drop-offs here, I've moved it to just next to this signal. Now all the signals on the layout are dipole signals, and they can all be controlled via DCC, although these two, even though they're lit up, I don't think they're actually wired in at the moment, so that's something I need to get around to doing. And then just in front of the coal stave here, I've just been working on my most recent projects, which if you follow me on Facebook, you'd have just seen in the last few days. I've actually fitted a decoder inside my Hornby Magazine diesel brake tender, and then dependent on the direction, this actually changes from red to white. So really pleased with how that's come out. If you want to know a little bit more about that, then just leave a comment in the comment section below. Perhaps I could cover that in a little bit more depth in the future. So moving over to the right hand side a little bit more, we come across the sort of first main building on this section of the scenic area, and this is, I think originally this was a wheels kit. I've then adapted it slightly, so the actual county school station signal box that was here was the wood, had a wooden top half and a brick underneath. So I've sort of kit bashed the wheels kit and built my own brick base for the signal box. So if we move these Model U figures out the way, you'll see underneath there we actually have a Gauge Master Scenic Sounds board, and a lot of that has been programmed DCC, so that if any of these particular points move, you'll hear the levers move from that speaker as well. And as you can see under here, we've actually got a couple of lights, and as well as that, oh, don't want to accidentally pull the lights out, we have a full interior as well with all the levers and all the other bits of detailing in there. Then just behind the fence here we have the head shunt, and as you can see here I've got some lovely coal wagons actually connected via some 3 links, and yeah, that's what I'm going to use to represent the coal deliveries. And of course this is the head shunt for the runaround for the other end of the loop that you saw earlier on. You could either have something parked up here like a bubble car, sort of 121 or similar, waiting to go into the bay platform, or again have some steam engine or something running around a set of coaches that are parked up there as well. If we look here, we've got a chap here who's looking at his watch, obviously waiting for the end of his shift. He's just standing by this lovely P-way hut. Now this P-way hut, I've got to give a huge thanks to, I think it's Philip at Intentio Models, who he sells a version with a 3-panel version of this, but on the actual county school at the actual location, it's actually a 4-panel version of this exact unit. And yeah, he's managed to modify the kit to give me an extra panel, so that way it represents the line side hut perfectly. I can't remember if the lid I think this lid's glued down now, but there is actually again a full interior in there, and it all lights up as well. I don't think the lights are connected at the moment, but yeah, that's the idea of that. Again, we've got some more flowers growing along here, and I think I actually may have sprayed them with layering spray, which is why they're not here now, but there used to be some rabbits along here as well, so we'll add them back in at some point. So moving to the final scenic section, as you can see, this is probably the most developed area out of the whole scenic work that I've done so far, and we've got some more details here from Goodwood Scenics, including these rusted up metal rings. We've got some metal corrugated sheets down here, and then we've also got some tools here, and these are from Scale Model Scenery. And to finish it off, we've got some dented and rusted barrels from Bunter's Yard. Now these are probably, just because of the variance in each one, I think these are probably my favourite sort of detailing items on here, just because it just gives that sort of area of that gives the idea that not every barrel is the same. Each one's got its own individual dents and kinks in it, and I think that just adds that extra little bit of realism. We've also got a small pile of bricks here as well, but no idea, I couldn't tell you where I got these from. I've had them just lying around for ages, so I thought, you know what, just chuck some bricks down there, because why not? And then we finish off the end of the head shunt here with a buffer stop. Now from the photos I've got, not all of them are coloured, so this is the best idea of the colouring scheme for this particular buffer that I was able to get from the very small amount of pictures and video that I have, because obviously in person all of this is long gone. There's no track work left here, and this is all just filled up with fields and bushes and other things, so it was quite difficult to try and make sure this was accurately represented, but I think I've done a reasonably good job at that. And finally, we move on to possibly my proudest piece of work. Now, I've got to give a huge shout out to Paul at Galgom Hall. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. But he was the person who basically walked me through step by step as I scratch built this entire Workmans Cottages. Now, I wanted something that accurately represented, because as I may have mentioned 100 times before, I spent a lot of my childhood going on holiday to county school, and the room I stayed in was actually this one up here. This front one here, so that actually lights up, and I've got to still wire it in, but that is going to light up just to represent sort of me sitting out the window perhaps all them years ago, just imagining trains coming past this section. And yeah, really pleased with how that scratch build has come out. We've got all the measurements from pictures and other things, scaled it all down, so this is exactly how it would have looked at the late 1950s. So super pleased with how that's come out. And once again, can't thank Paul enough for his time into sort of teaching me how to do some sort of very simple scratch building. And I think for a first attempt at a scratch build, it's actually come out quite nicely, and I hope the quality continues with the station master's house that I'm working on. Of course, the track workers who live in the Workmans Cottages here need access to the station, and behind this tree here there's a gate and a dirt path that runs behind the signal box and to the station. There's also a gate at the front here. Now I'm not entirely sure why they had a gate there. Perhaps it was just easy access to the track, because obviously the health and safety laws back then weren't like they are now, so you can literally just open your gate and wander straight onto onto the main line. But yeah, I'm quite pleased again with how this scene's come out. Now there is a gap here, and that's because during obviously World War II you had Anderson shelters, and I'm thinking of fitting an Anderson shelter in this section just to sort of replicate that, because at County School at the moment they've got a sort of demonstration one behind the station, so I think it'd be fitting to fit one in this section here. So that's why I've left that blank for now as I try and work out what to do. Unlike the current era where there's a fence between the two gardens of each cottage, during this time from photos there was no fence at all. I might get a little washing line or something up in there, but it's not going to be anything too fancy. But yeah, a very simple sort of living accommodation for those guys. I didn't do any details on the inside. I've just done some curtains and then using some greaseproof paper or tracing paper to sort of mist out the windows, and that means when I have a little light on there it should just sort of shine through there quite nicely. So like I said throughout the video, there's still plenty more work to be done. There's little jobs here and there that I still need to go over, as well as working on extra things like the diesel brake tender, just to sort of bring it up to the level that I'm happy with to take it to a show. And then of course the main piece of the layout, which is the station buildings, which hopefully will be here in the next couple of months. But hopefully you guys didn't find this too boring. Again, we haven't done double O gauge on here for a little while, and while the main Wardle Road layout is no more, I've hoped to very much focus any double O gauge time that I have on this. But of course we have got the standard gauge wagons, and I've also got other things going on in my personal life, a career move and other bits that have taken up a much larger chunk of my time. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did and you want to see more of these videos, please do hit the thumbs up and let me know in the comment section below that you want to see some more double O gauge. We'll obviously be continuing with the standard gauge videos as well, but I thought it was about time I showed you what I'd been working on the slightly smaller stuff. But other than that, hopefully you guys did enjoy, and if you did, please, as I say, hit the thumbs up. Any feedback in the comment section, I'm always looking for ways to improve this. And other than that, I will see you in the next video, whatever that may be. Cheers.